Hey, well, what's up, Colliders? Welcome back to the Collision. Daniel here. 2020 is now in our rear view mirror. Thank God. It was a rough year for, this personally in our country, but it's also a rough year for movies. Not a whole lot of movies were showing, not a lot of new releases. The year did end with a bit of a bang. A couple of big releases did release right at the very end, one of which was Wonder Woman 1984, probably one of the most anticipated films for a lot of people. Based on the hit film from 2017. So I saw it, so let's talk about it. So the Wonder Woman, as far as maybe I'll show my cards up front, that the DC kind of universe movies, the most recent Justice League and Batman and all those have done nothing for me. Really since Christopher Nolan's fantastic Dark Knight trilogy, the DC side of things has just been kind of floundering. I know some people are really into it, and that's cool. They kind of latch onto the darker tone, but there's just been very little about that whole kind of cinematic universe that has interested me or excited me. But really, the one kind of bright light, the exception for that was Wonder Woman in 2017. Really, in some ways, it doesn't fit with the rest of what they're trying to do with the DC films. It was a very kind of bright and cheerful and optimistic kind of tone to it. Kind of an uplifting film, very different from what kind of the tone and the vibe that they're going for with, like the Batman vs. Superman, or even just Superman itself, kind of making him more gritty, anti-hero. In a lot of ways, it was like a throwback to kind of old school superhero films, and I dug it. I was into that. I enjoyed that a lot, and also, the film was also, besides just being a wildly successful, it was in a lot of ways a landmark film. It was one of the first films to be led by a female superhero. So this film, like the first one, directed by Patty Jenkins, a talented filmmaker, soon to make her debut in the Star Wars franchise, which I'm excited for. She's a good storyteller. Has a good knack for kind of character moments, some of that kind of emotional beats. Gal Gadot, once again, is Wonder Woman. And again, she's, I know there's a lot of questions going into the first one about her acting skills, and she's, I think no one's going to claim that she's going to win an Oscar, anytime soon for acting. But at the same time, I think she is perfectly cast and fit for Wonder Woman. She really owns the role, kind of in the same way that someone like Robert Downey Jr. does for Iron Man. She's back. Chris Pine, through some clever storytelling conveniences, is back. If you saw the first Wonder Woman, he did not make it out of that movie. But based on the way the plot unfolds, he's back. And again, the chemistry between Pine and Gadot, it was one of the kind of the driving forces behind the first one. And once again, they're great together. The scenes that they have together, they play off each other well. So all the pieces that kind of made the first one so good are back. But in the end, with most sequels, the question is usually, does it live up to the original? Does it live up to what came before it? And I think in this case, the answer is no. It doesn't quite reach that point. There's some issues that start to creep into this film that weren't present in the first film. And probably the best way to start kind of breaking this movie down a bit is, the central premise of this story is sort of this give and take. There's you get a wish granted. You're given your deepest desire, one good thing, but as a payment for that, it also costs you something. There's kind of a give and take, and again, that's the conflict throughout this film. And I think kind of on a more meta level, that's kind of true with this film as well. That a lot of the things that this film has going for it are also things that kind of detract from the film. And I think, one of those is just tone. Like I said, I think even more so than the first Wonder Woman, this is a very kind of bright and cheery, optimistic tone, which is, again, it's refreshing not to have kind of this angsty anti-hero. Diana, Wonder Woman in the film is, she has her, maybe her demon, her regrets, her struggles, but she's not sort of this tortured soul like we get in so many of these other superhero films. She's genuinely just a good person that's willing to make sacrifices and help people. It's encouraging to see that in an age where there seems to be kind of a tendency now to shy away from that and to try and kind of bring superheroes down to the level of just sort of normal, corrupt, angsty man. And it shows that she is sort of an ideal, maybe an unrealistic ideal, but she is sort of an ideal. So I appreciated that side of it. The trade-off is that the tone for this movie is all over the place. there's scenes where it feels, like kind of a real campy, almost like a TV movie. And the opening kind of scenes and some of the action in the opening part felt more like Shazam. The movie was just the whole movie was sort of going for that goofy tone. And then, then there's scenes where it is a little darker, and it sort of flips back and forth, and it's hard to kind of get a grasp on what this film is. Sometimes it almost feels like it's kind of a cheesy kind of romance Hallmark movie. Sometimes it feels like a big epic film, and it's hard to kind of get a grasp on sort of what this film is. I think in some ways it tried to be a lot of things, and you kind of end up on this kind of whiplash, this roller coaster of, what is this film really going for? I think another kind of give and take is, unlike most sequels, they tend to try, go bigger, badder, trying to just do bigger stakes, bigger spectacle, bigger set pieces, and trying to outdo the original. This one almost does the reverse for that. It kind of narrows in, and it's way more of like a character piece than it is some big. Again, at the end you get some of that spectacle that you expect from a blockbuster movie, but again, I think that's for its benefit, that it really does narrow in on Diana, what she's going through. There's a lot less action than you would expect in a superhero movie, a lot more to sort of emotional beats. Diana herself isn't really even in her Wonder Woman garb all that often. She spends more time just sort of as Diana than she does as sort of the Wonder Woman persona. And I think in some ways that, again, it's refreshing, and it allows Patty Jenkins to tell some more kind of emotional beats for the character. But kind of the flip side of that is that this is a slow and sometimes kind of plodding film. Not a whole lot happens, especially at the start. Things kind of pick up near the end, but for a lot of this film, it's almost like a sort of this drama that just sort of drags on. There's not enough sort of exciting kind of set pieces to really kind of keep you interested or shake it up. And even when there is sort of a more action-centered pieces, it's just sort of it's what I would say is it's kind of floaty. There's not a lot of like physics to it. The characters are kind of floating around. Someone gets punched and they do a million backflips and they fly across and I get, she's obviously like a demigod or whatever she is. So there's some justification for it, but none of the action really kind of lands or kind of lives up to like the No Man's Land in the first film that kind of had a lot of weight and stakes. It all just kind of feels very kind of fluffy when it does happen. And again, there's not a whole lot of action to begin with. And I think one other area in the film that again is, I think eventually we're going to reach a time when every film that has a female lead doesn't have to have the feminism discussion. Hopefully before long we can kind of get past that and it is more normal. But I think for now, because it is, again, there hasn't been a whole lot of superheroes led by female characters, that is a discussion that needs to be had about these films. And I think, the first film, Wonder Woman film, handled this really well. It didn't beat you over the head with some kind of feminist message. It kind of showed a well-rounded kind of, take on that. I think Patty Jenkins has a great way of presenting that in a very kind of optimistic, encouraging, and challenging way without kind of stepping on a soapbox and preaching. And this film does the same. On the one side, outside of Chris Pine's character, every male character in this film is just a complete gross pig. Maybe I'm missing one, but I can't think of one character a male character in this film outside of Pine that isn't just sort of some shallow, kind of gross catcalling every woman that he's around. And again, some of that kind of gets old a little bit. But on the flip side of that, I think Chris Pine's relationship with Diana, with Gal Gadot's character, is very wholesome and very kind of a healthy perspective of what kind of that dynamic can be. They trust each other. They rely on each other. And I think even just Diana's character, she's not she don't need no man. She's just a tough, rough fighter. She's, kind of like a female, just equivalent of a traditional, male stereotype action hero. She is very feminine at the same time. She's suffering, loss. She was in love with Pine. She's dealing with that. She kind of has this, she is very woman. She is very feminine. At the same time, she's very powerful, and she's very, she has her own agency. And I think it's maybe to contrast it to like something like Captain Marvel, it's a way I think, more dynamic and an effective kind of way to deal with some of those topics. Maybe just the last thing that kind of stood out to me in this film is this sort of the whole theme of kind of just humanity, human nature, free will. Again, I think, coming at this film as a Christian, I think a lot of what you see in the film kind of lines up with what kind of Christianity in the Bible teaches. It sort of shows, in some ways, this is sort of like a superhero version of like Bruce Almighty, the old Jim Carrey film, where it's, if we all had the power just to decide what was best for ourselves, and if we had all our dreams come true and could kind of decide what kind of world we wanted, what would that look like? And this film kind of shows that, hey, the world would fall apart if it was just left up for us to get what we thought was best for us. It doesn't take long for the whole world to kind of descend into chaos, and kind of shows, hey, we at the end of the day we are flawed, kind of fallen human beings. We don't know what's best. That I think you can see a lot of just kind of powerful teaching for, hey, there's a reason why we trust a higher power that knows more than we do. Because left on our own, if we just get everything we want, we're naturally self-centered, and just sort of leads us down into destruction. And I guess the trade-off for that, like a lot of things in the film, is that it does get at the end very heavy-handed. It is very preachy. As Wonder Woman's giving kind of her final speech, and the camera zoomed right in on her face, and there's story reasons why it's doing that, but it does sort of give I'm assuming, intentional kind of feel that she is speaking right to the audience. And again, I think the morals that she's teaching are powerful and should be affirmed, but it does come across very kind of like this morality play of very preachy, very kind of pushing the message that I think was more effective when it was left a little more subtle for the audience. So again, this film has a lot going for it, has a lot that's not going for it. In the end of the day, I don't think this is a film that I think me personally will return to or have a desire to watch again. I don't think it was as bad as maybe some other people have been saying it is. I think there's enough in this film to make it worth watching once. I think the messaging of it is a positive and just healthy message all the way through. But again, this unfortunately, overall, it just can't live up to how good the first one was. But hey, if you guys saw this film, I know people are quite divided on it. I'd love to hear what you guys thought. Are you guys sort of with me, unsure about this film, just not feeling it? Did you really enjoy this film? Are you enjoying kind of the Wonder Woman? I know they've already fast-tracked Wonder Woman 3. And again, I'm excited for that. I think there's a lot to do with the character, even if I felt like this story itself just needed some more work kind of at the script production level. But hey, if you guys haven't done so already, we'd love for you guys to subscribe to our channel. A lot of stuff going to be happening in 2021. Hopefully movies are coming back. Movie theaters will be opening before long, so we'll have a lot of reviews and some other stuff we're doing. If you haven't done so, make sure you like this video. Have a great week, guys, and continue to collide with your world for Christ.